The Simpsons have done it again, predicting some crazy things that have left us stunned. From calling Donald Trump's presidency to foreseeing the Osaka flu, the show has a knack for spotting major events before they even happen. But hang on, that's not all. They've also had some wild guesses about robots turning on humans, tech changing the way we eat, and, believe it or not, how the world might come to an end. Spoiler alert, it's not the end of the world as we know it. Stick around and check out why The Simpsons' predictions for 2025 are absolutely mind-blowing. Let's talk about one of their most hilarious yet genius predictions: a baby language translator. Anyone who's been around a crying baby knows the struggle of trying to figure out what they want, especially when they can't just tell you straight. It's a universal pain we all get. The Simpsons made light of this situation in one episode where a genius character invents a device that translates a baby's cries into something adults can understand. The idea is hilarious but also pretty genius, offering a comical view of how a simple misunderstanding can spiral into a chaotic parenting moment. But here's the kicker: the concept might not be so far out there. In fact, scientists and researchers are already exploring ways to analyze sounds in ways we never thought possible. This means that the idea of a real-life baby translator might be closer than we think. Thanks to The Simpsons, we could be just a step away from making parenting a bit less of a guessing game. As technology evolves, it seems like their predictions about AI might be more relevant than ever. And the warning they gave us about rogue robots is one we shouldn't ignore. We've all heard the warnings about the dangers of artificial intelligence. But what if The Simpsons actually predicted a future where AI goes from being helpful to downright harmful? AI is advancing faster than ever, making life easier in so many ways. But there's also a darker side to this rapid growth. Imagine if The Simpsons saw something unsettling ahead, and what if they were right? In a 2016 episode, the family visits a theme park where all the workers are robots. What starts as a cool, futuristic experience quickly spirals out of control when the AI turns rogue, attacking the humans and causing utter chaos. It's not just a wild plot twist, it's a chilling glimpse of what could happen if AI takes a dangerous turn. This raises some serious questions about AI's role in our future. Could it end up replacing human jobs, leaving workers unemployed and making things worse than they already are? That's a real concern. Then there's the even scarier thought: what if AI becomes so smart that it outwits us? What if it decides we're the problem? Experts, including the well-known scientist Jürgen Schmieder, have been warning for years about runaway AI and the possibility that we could create something smarter than ourselves. As AI continues to evolve, could we end up with tech that's completely out of our control? It looks like The Simpsons might have had a point after all. And if you think AI is the only futuristic thing they predicted, think again. They also saw a world with flying cars. From robot workers to flying cars, the future that once seemed like pure fantasy is slowly starting to take shape. It's wild how The Simpsons always seems to have an uncanny ability to predict what's coming. It's almost like they've got a crystal ball or something. Take the 2005 episode Future Drama as an example. In this one, Bart and Lisa get a sneak peek into their lives in 2013 thanks to Professor Fink's time machine. The episode imagines a future where flying cars are as common as everyday sedans on the street. Back then, it seemed totally ridiculous, much like Back to the Future Part 2 wildly predicted the technology we'd have by the 2010s. In 2013, society was more obsessed with quirky fashion trends like onesies, and flying cars felt like a far-off dream. But here's the twist. As The Simpsons predicted, technology has started catching up. Hyundai had promised that flying cars would be part of Uber's future by 2023, but that deadline came and went with no airborne vehicles in sight. Still, there's a glimmer of hope. Enter Samsung Sky, a company with a real shot at turning this sci-fi dream into reality by 2025. In December 2023, their flying car, the Switchblade, took its first flight, soaring 500 feet above the ground. It was a huge milestone, and the company announced they're just 2 years away from mass-producing the Switchblade for interested buyers. Now picture this: driving your car on the road, then effortlessly flying it into the sky. That's the promise of the Switchblade. But here's the catch. To take to the skies, you'll need a pilot's license, and the price tag starts at around $170,000. so it might make you think twice before zooming above traffic. Still, with flying cars becoming a reality, The Simpsons may have been on to something. Who knows, in just a few years, we could all be looking at traffic in a whole new way. And speaking of predictions, The Simpsons also nailed it when it came to the next American president. Donald Trump's presidential run was all but predicted by the show. One of the most thrilling predictions The Simpsons ever made has to be the one about Donald Trump becoming president. In a 1998 episode titled Bart to the Future, Trump is shown as the 45th president of the United States. At that time, he was a reality TV star and businessman, completely outside the political world. The episode's writers later claimed it was just a joke based on Trump's over-the-top personality. But when Trump announced his candidacy in 2015 and then went on to win the 2016 election, The Simpsons' prediction became the talk of Hollywood. Whether it was a lucky guess or just a random jab that hit the mark, it's still a mystery in American political history. Now here's where it gets even more mind-blowing. The Simpsons predicted that Trump would run again and win the 2024 election. Flash forward to November 15, 2022, when Trump announced his bid for president in 2024. Interestingly, Al Jean, a writer for the show, tweeted that the show had actually predicted this back in 2015. In an episode where the Simpsons travel into the future, Homer walks by a sign that says Trump 2024. And that was wild when you think about it, considering this aired long before Trump even became president. But wait, The Simpsons didn't stop there. They also predicted that after Trump's presidency, the next leader would have to deal with budget problems left behind by his time in office. As the 2024 election drew closer, fans of the show were eagerly waiting to see if The Simpsons would once again prove just how spot-on their predictions could be. If you were still skeptical, you've got to admit, predicting not only Trump running but actually winning the presidency was honestly mind-blowing and remains a bit of a mystery. And just when you thought things couldn't get crazier, The Simpsons also predicted that Trump's daughter, Ivanka, might be in line to become the future president. Do the writers of The Simpsons have some kind of obsession with Donald Trump and his family? It sure seems that way. Before you jump to conclusions, let's dig into a pretty subtle moment from The Simpsons. Up until now, the show has built a reputation for predicting big political events like Donald Trump's presidency. But they didn't stop there. In an episode that aired in October 2016, they dropped a little hint that Ivanka Trump, Donald's daughter, might run for president. This wasn't just some random gag. Homer Simpson is seen wearing a campaign button that reads Ivanka 2028. While it's tempting to brush it off as a funny bit, it actually says a lot. The prediction about Ivanka running for president wasn't an accident. It's likely a deliberate choice, especially given Ivanka's growing influence in politics, largely shaped by her father's guidance. The Simpsons doesn't just toss out random predictions. They often have a connection to what's happening in the real world. So while we can't say for sure if Ivanka will run for president or even win, the show's impressive track record of accurate predictions definitely makes us wonder. What's even more interesting is that Ivanka's potential presidential run could point to something even bigger: the possibility of a woman finally becoming president of the United States. So how would you feel if Ivanka Trump really decided to throw her hat in the ring? It might seem unexpected, but considering The Simpsons' history, it's something we should keep an eye on. And speaking of predictions, here's one that was way ahead of its time. The Simpsons hinted at futuristic food technology that could totally change the way we experience meals. Virtual reality food. Could it actually replace our favorite foods one day? That's a pretty wild thought. But knowing The Simpsons, it might not be so far-fetched after all. The Simpsons had this idea way back, and now the tech world is starting to turn it into reality. It all began in the Treehouse of Horror 6 episode from Season 7, where Homer and Marge are shown enjoying virtual fun through straws while wearing virtual reality headsets. At the time, it seemed totally out there. Who could imagine eating food without actually tasting it? It felt like something straight out of science fiction. But fast forward to today, and we're starting to see a future where virtual reality could change the way we experience dining. It's hard to believe that technology could affect something as simple as food, right? But knowing The Simpsons, their predictions often end up being closer to reality than we expect. With tech advancing at breakneck speed, What once seemed far-fetched is starting to feel more and more possible. In fact, it's already happening. The Royal Caribbean Cruise Line is planning to offer guests a virtual reality dining experience, proving that what seemed like a joke a few decades ago might soon be the next big thing in food. Imagine enjoying your favorite foods without worrying about calories. No more late-night fridge raids or counting carbs. With virtual reality food, you could experience digital dishes in a totally immersive way without ever gaining a pound. Companies like Arab Banquets and RMX are already pushing the envelope by creating virtual reality experiences that simulate not only the look and feel of food, but also the smells and sounds. It's like stepping into a fantasy world where you can savor every bite without the guilt. But here's the thing. Virtual reality food isn't just about eating without consequences. It's opening up a whole new world of food experiences. Picture being able to explore the journey of your meal, learning about sustainable farming, or even cooking alongside a virtual chef guiding you every step of the way. What started as a quirky joke on The Simpsons is quickly becoming something more plausible. As technology evolves, virtual reality food could totally change how we think about dining. Who knows? The future could bring us food experiences we never even imagined. Feeling like technology is moving so fast that you're constantly playing catch-up? One minute it's all about the latest phone, and the next minute we're talking about holograms. But here's the kicker. The Simpsons might have predicted it. It sometimes feels like tech is evolving so quickly that we can barely keep up. But if you look at The Simpsons, it's almost like they've been living in the future for years. The show has been ahead of the game in so many ways. In one episode, Bart takes a peek into the future using one of Professor Frink's crazy inventions, a thingamajig. What does he see? Well, it's kind of mind-blowing. In this future vision, a lazy older Bart gets a hologram message inviting his band to a gig at a club. Now here's the big question. How did The Simpsons even come up with the idea of holograms being a thing back then? Could it be that by 2025, holograms might be as common as texting on our phones? Okay, maybe that's a bit of a stretch, but stay with me. Right now, we're living in a world full of mind-blowing tech. Take DreamHawk HD holograms, for example. These futuristic three-sided displays can showcase 3D images of anything, from famous landmarks to live performances, or even holograms of your friends in another country. Imagine you're chilling in your living room, and out pops your friend from across the globe teaching you the latest viral TikTok dance. It's like being in the same place, even though you're oceans apart. That's cool, right? But this is only the beginning of what technology has to offer. As we're seeing, it's all getting more immersive, so what happens when these machines start thinking for themselves? The Simpsons might have already given us a glimpse into that future, and let's just say it's not as charming as their usual antics. You see, The Simpsons was ahead of the game when it came to predicting robots taking over way beyond just factory jobs. We've already seen robot servers pop up in Japan, and self-driving cars are inching closer to replacing taxi drivers. But it's not just physical jobs that are on the line. Machines are stepping into fields we never imagined. Artificial intelligence is now tackling things like coding, financial advising, and even graphic design. Imagine a world where the AI is making design decisions, handling your finances, and even writing code to develop apps. It feels surreal, but it's happening faster than we think. And while we're all amazed by the potential, we also can't ignore the darker side. What happens if AI turns against us? Could the machines we rely on start to think they're better off without us? This is where The Simpsons predicted a very real fear. Back in 1994, in the Itchy and Scratchy Land episode, the family visits a theme park that's run entirely by robots. Things go sideways when the robots start to get too smart, and, as expected, they rebel against their human creators. At the time, it was just another fun Simpsons storyline, right? Fast forward to today, and we're witnessing the rapid rise of AI technology. The idea that robots and machines could eventually surpass human intelligence and make decisions that go against us doesn't seem like something that can only exist in cartoons anymore. It feels way too possible, especially when AI is learning faster and more efficiently every day. But The Simpsons didn't stop there. They also predicted that AI could take control of our minds in another eerie episode that's starting to feel way too real. Mind control through music sounds like a crazy plot twist, doesn't it? But it's actually based on the power of entertainment and how it can influence us in ways we don't even notice. The episode features Bart, Nelson, Milhouse, and Ralph forming a boy band called Party Posey. Yep, that's the name they came up with. Initially, it seems silly, but it gets a little darker. The band's hit song, Dropped a Bomb, has a hidden message when played in reverse. Join the Navy. The song and its music video brainwashed the entire town of Springfield into enlisting in the military. It's a wild plot, right? But here's the kicker. It's not as outlandish as it seems. During World War II, the US government actually used music and entertainment as tools to encourage young men to enlist. The Simpsons explored the concept of entertainment being used for military recruitment long before it became a real-world tactic. The show's warning about the influence of music and entertainment on our choices is no longer just a joke. In today's world, we already know how much power advertising and media can have over public opinion and behavior. When you look at it like that, the episode's mind control plot doesn't feel as far-fetched anymore. What's even crazier is how The Simpsons has a track record of predicting things years, even decades before they happen. This isn't the first time the show has caught our attention with its eerily accurate forecasts. From predicting technology advances to political shifts, the show has consistently tapped into what might be just around the corner. And it's almost like they were giving us a glimpse of the future, whether we were ready for it or not. So while we may be in awe of these advances in tech, like holograms and AI, we can't forget that sometimes, even the wildest Simpsons predictions have a tendency to edge a little too close to reality. And that's what makes the show so fascinating. With everything from robots turning rogue to mind control, their portrayal of the future isn't just for laughs. It might be the blueprint for where we're headed. Who knows? Maybe the world of The Simpsons is trying to tell us something we might need to pay attention to. The band's hit song, Dropped a Bomb, comes with a bizarre music video featuring a strange chant. It's something like Ivan Neo, which when flipped around spells out "Join the Navy." Things get even wilder when it turns out that the catchy song and trippy video are brainwashing Springfield's residents into joining the military. Lisa connects the dots when she confronts the music producer, who turns out to be a Navy lieutenant. He reveals that music has been used for military recruitment for ages. It's not just a wild Simpsons storyline. During World War II, the US used music and entertainment to encourage young men to enlist. The power of entertainment in shaping people's choices is real, and when The Simpsons takes on mind control through music, it makes you wonder, is it just another absurd plot, or do the creators know something we missed? Given how often The Simpsons has predicted the future, maybe it's time to pay attention to what they might be hinting at now. And speaking of predictions, here's one that's starting to feel a bit too real. Could an old joke from The Simpsons actually be pointing to something troubling about our future? On November 22, 1987, the show aired a special episode on The Tracy Ullman Show. It was full of laughs, but if you look closer, you might see something deeper hiding beneath the humor. A lot of the show's most accurate predictions came from little side moments that most people didn't even notice at the time. It's wild to think about, but sometimes it's those throwaway lines that end up being spot on. In this episode, Homer keeps pranking his family by scaring them with warnings about World War III. He wakes them up in a panic, telling them to rush to the fallout shelter like the end of the world is near. Sure, it was all just a joke, poking fun at the panic that might happen if a global conflict ever got too close. But the idea that regular families might have to react like Homer did seemed pretty bold back in the late 80s. Fast forward to today, and the possibility of World War III feels a lot more real than it did back then. We had a global scare in 2020 with rising tensions before the pandemic hit. And if you keep an eye on world politics, there are conflicts brewing all over the globe. So the big question is, could 2024 be the year it all comes to a head? Could nations push things too far, leading to a major global conflict? Well, knowing The Simpsons, they might be onto something again. As if The Simpsons wasn't already impressively ahead of its time, the show even predicted pandemics before they became a global reality. Take, for instance, the Osaka flu in the episode Margin Chains from Season 4. It starts out as a Mother's Day special, but quickly turns chaotic and eerily relatable. In this episode, Marge ends up locked up in jail, and the town of Springfield realizes just how much they depend on her. But as the town panics, there's also a subplot about a rapidly spreading sickness. It all begins with a juicer shipped from Osaka, Japan, where a worker at the packing plant has the flu. His germs contaminate the juice, which then spreads across Springfield, infecting the entire town. Though this may sound outlandish, it raises a very unsettling question. Could something like this happen in real life? Could germs accidentally be spread across the world due to a manufacturing mistake, especially if someone working in the factory was sick? Given the Simpsons' track record of predicting future events, it's not too far-fetched to imagine that something similar could happen. The show's outlandish plots often end up being shockingly close to reality, and this one was no exception. And then there's the Simpsons' take on renewable energy. In episode 582, Lisa Simpson creates a solar-powered car to race in the alternative energy derby. It's a perfect moment for clean energy to shine, until a corporate firm uses a blimp to block the sun, preventing Lisa from crossing the finish line and leaving her facing ridicule. At first glance, it's just a humorous moment, but when you look closer, it's an eerie prediction. We're now racing toward a future powered by clean energy, and solar cars are no longer a far-off dream. In fact, by 2025, solar-powered cars could be a common sight on the roads. But here's where it gets even crazier. The Simpsons didn't just predict the rise of clean energy. They also foresaw the pushback from big corporations that are reluctant to move away from traditional energy sources. These massive companies have huge influence over the global economy, and as much as we may want a cleaner future, their opposition could hold things up. This battle is already playing out in real time, and if history is any guide, it's likely to continue in the coming years. Now for something really wild. Could the government really trap us in a dome to control our consumption? It sounds like something straight out of a science fiction movie, but The Simpsons might have predicted that too. What seemed like a crazy joke might just be pointing to something more sinister in the future. The more we think about it, the more we wonder if the show has been playing the long game all along. The Simpsons has definitely earned its title as a time-traveling fortune teller, and one of its eeriest predictions came in the Simpsons movie back in 2007. In the film, a city gets trapped under a massive dome by the government. At first, it felt like another typical over-the-top storyline for the show, but now, in today's world with rising costs and stricter regulations, this concept doesn't seem so out there anymore. Imagine a future in 2025 where the government decides to seal us off in a controlled dome to limit our consumption, shutting down electricity, taking away the internet, and leaving everyone stuck inside. It sounds like a nightmare, but if you've seen how many of The Simpsons' past predictions have come true, this one doesn't feel too far off. That wasn't the only outlandish prediction the show made, though. Another jaw-dropping one came in the form of black holes. In one episode, a tiny black hole starts sucking up everything in its path, growing so massive that it eventually swallows the entire Earth, sending people to another planet where aliens await. Sounds insane, right? Yet scientists have already discovered black holes in space, and while we don't know all the details, the possibility of one getting close to Earth isn't entirely out of the question. Could we survive it? Well, it's a terrifying thought, but considering how often The Simpsons gets things right, this wild idea might not be too far from reality. And if that wasn't wild enough, there's the potential of human colonization of Mars. The show's always been good at imagining the future, and this idea of us reaching beyond Earth into space is looking more and more like a real possibility. With SpaceX and NASA pushing for a Mars mission, The Simpsons might have seen humanity's next great leap before anyone else. Who knows? Maybe we'll all be living on Mars sooner than we think. Imagine this. The Simpsons predicted humanity's ambition to colonize Mars long before Elon Musk even dreamed of setting foot on the red planet. The show has always had a knack for imagining the future in ways that are almost too out there to be believable, and this one is no different. In an episode, Lisa Simpson is chosen to travel to Mars to help build a habitat, and in true Simpson family fashion, Marge insists on going with her. Before they know it, the whole family is gearing up for a mission to Mars. The plan was to send humans to Mars before 2026, but of course things don't go according to plan. The Simpson family's mission gets delayed, and they don't land on Mars until 2051. As if that wasn't enough, Lisa then announces that she wants to head to Venus, which just makes the whole thing even more absurdly hilarious. While the episode is obviously meant to be fun and far-fetched, the fact that The Simpsons predicted such a monumental leap in space exploration is jaw-dropping. It's moments like these when the line between comedy and reality blurs, leaving us to wonder, what other futuristic predictions has the show made? And speaking of the future, The Simpsons has also explored some pretty dark ideas, including the possibility of the world coming to an end. Their track record of predicting the future doesn't stop with space missions. It also dips into global catastrophes. The Simpsons has always been known for taking wild scenarios and giving them a comedic twist. But some of the show's predictions about the world ending feel a little too close for comfort. In one particularly memorable episode, Homer Simpson predicts the end of the world based on a prophecy from the Book of Revelation. According to Homer, just before the rapture, the stars will fall to Earth, and he can't wait for it to happen. Homer spreads his apocalyptic excitement to his family and friends, but when the big day arrives, he's left disappointed. It turns out that the world doesn't end as expected. However, in a surprising turn of events, Homer does find himself in heaven after the world ultimately ends. While the episode is funny, it leaves viewers with a thought-provoking question. Could the world end unexpectedly, without warning? It's a dark idea, but The Simpsons has a way of exploring unsettling themes in an oddly hilarious way. And if you thought that was the wildest prediction from the show, buckle up for the next one. An environmental disaster. In The Simpsons movie, 2007, Homer causes an environmental crisis when he dumps pig waste into Springfield's already polluted lake, triggering a series of events that end with the government quarantining the town by surrounding it with a giant bubble. While the bubble itself is clearly a joke, the environmental disaster it represents doesn't seem as far-fetched as it once did. The message about global warming, human impact on the planet, and corporate greed all feel eerily relevant today. In reality, businesses continue to put profits over the planet, leading to a worsening environmental crisis. The Simpsons movie may have exaggerated the situation, but its underlying point is something we all need to consider. Without real change, we may face the very disaster it hinted at. One prediction that got a lot of attention was the one that seemingly foretold Kobe Bryant's tragic death. It's another shocking example of how The Simpsons has been able to tap into future events in a way that feels uncanny. The Simpsons are no strangers to predicting bizarre events, but some of their predictions are so wild, they make you question just how far ahead they might be. Take murder hornets, for example. These terrifying creatures made a splash in 2020, but The Simpsons hinted at them earlier, even before their 2019 appearance in Washington State. While these hornets might sound like something out of a horror film, they're less deadly to humans than their name suggests. What's even more intriguing, however, is how the show used this seemingly bizarre concept long before they actually became a trending topic. Then there's the helicopter crash that many claim was foreseen in an episode featuring Kobe Bryant. The idea of predicting a tragedy like this, especially when it involves something as specific as a helicopter, seems impossible, right? But given that helicopters appear all the time in shows and movies, it could be just a coincidence. No mystical prediction, just a random use of the vehicle. Next up, we've got a Simpsons Super Bowl prediction that's got people talking. A 1999 episode allegedly predicted the San Francisco 49ers winning the 2020 Super Bowl. The twist? The episode was actually predicting Super Bowl 33, which was between the Denver Broncos and the Atlanta Falcons. It turns out the whole 49ers thing was just a gag because the team's color scheme was chosen before the actual Super Bowl teams were decided. So, while it might seem like a wild prediction, it wasn't actually anything more than an animation quirk. And just when you think you've heard it all, The Simpsons throws in a wild one: the zombie apocalypse. In one episode, a fast food restaurant serves up a burger that turns people into zombie-like creatures. The chaos begins when a reporter eats the burger first, setting off an outbreak that turns Springfield into a zombie nightmare. While the town descends into madness, only the Simpson family is immune. The whole scenario is played for laughs, but let's be real. A real-life zombie outbreak could quickly spiral into a global crisis. Hopefully, this one remains in the realm of fiction. From hornets to helicopters, Super Bowl surprises to zombie apocalypses, it's safe to say the Simpsons have predicted some of the strangest events. Whether they're coincidences or the result of some wild foresight, the line between reality and the bizarre is getting blurrier by the day.